Hi, I'm Tom at Ledgemere, and it's been a few episodes since we've gone through all the animals and done the daily routine. I'm going to start out today with the calves because they're the most volatile, then I'll go to the chicks because they're the second most, or vice versa, but I'm going to start with the calves and work my way out through the barn and do the chickens, and then the big chickens, and then the cows and sheep, and hopefully that'll be a little entertainment for you. I've got some thoughts about some things that I want to share, and so let's get going and go get the animals taken care of today.
Looks like Pearl's found the milk.
I'm going to give the babies their breakfast today, and one thing that I usually do is I get a stainless pail and I mix the whole formula up, and then I pour it into the bottles with a funnel. Use a whip. That way it's uniform when I put it in. It's tempting to just put the powder in the bottle and shake it up, but then you get clumps and it's inconsistent. It's already hard on the babies because they've been taken away from their mothers. At the dairy farm they were getting actual cow's milk, and now I'm giving them this formula, which is dried dehydrated milk or powdered milk with some other stuff put in it. It's medicated to prevent coccidia. It won't get rid of coccidia if they have it, but it prevents coccidia from happening. And with newborn animals, they're very prone to scours, which is diarrhea. They're also prone to coccidia and other parasites or diseases, pneumonia in particular, because they're so fragile. And that's the case with bottle lambs, bottle goats, all those things. You have to be very careful. Kind of keep the temperature consistent. Try to keep the the humidity down, and dry bedding. Keep everything as consistent as possible, and that does help mitigate some issues. Now, I know a lot of people, they think about dairy calves being taken away from their moms within a day or two, and if you think about it from one perspective, it's sad, and the cows do miss their babies for a little bit, but they forget after a day or so, and it is sad when you hear the mom calling for her baby, but she gets over it pretty quickly. And as humans, we kind of humanize a lot of things, and it's easy to do that with a lot of things when it comes to agriculture, and you kind of have to think about it as a business. And so we need to get those dairy cows into production. Right after birth, the cows are giving colostrum, which is like a heavier, thicker kind of milk, and that's what the babies need for the first day or two, and that gives them the antibodies to kind of get them started. So usually dairy farms, maybe 2 days at the most, they'll keep them on their babies before they put them into production. But you have to understand the cost of keeping those animals, feeding those animals is negative until that animal's actually producing milk. So that cow, for the 9 months that it was carrying that calf, was not producing any profit. If that calf has cow has one calf and it's a bull, well, that whole 9 months has been basically for nothing, because the bull calves in the dairy industry are worth peanuts, and they generally go for veal, and so they might get 15 or 20 bucks at auction for those calves. So it's really not profitable. So in defense of the dairy industry, they need to get those mama cows into production as fast as possible. So what I do is I get these bull calves. They're 3 days old generally. What they do is they'll get them good and started for me, and they feed them mother's milk for a couple days, and they get their colostrum. And then they'll disbud them, which will prevent the horns from growing. So the calves are pretty well started when I get them, but it's just very essential that I take good care of them and get them well started. So stainless steel bucket. I'm going to go ahead and clean this out, and then I'm going to use the whip and the powdered milk and get that all ready to go. I'll keep an eye on these guys periodically during the day, make sure they're not getting scours, and if they do, what you do is you just back off the formula. So you cut the formula, you give them the same amount of liquid, okay? So they're still getting the same fluid ounces, but you're backing off the formula because the formula can give them scours until they get used to it. And then if they do scour, you hit them with electrolytes like midday a couple times. So you don't mix the electrolytes in with the milk. That's a separate feeding. You just mix them in the bottle. And the electrolytes are kind of a sweet tasting, so they will like it. You got it, buddy. Yeah, there's going to be times when you don't feel good, the weather's going to be crappy, and you just don't want to go outside and do it. And those are the days that, that's the real test of your farming abilities, I guess, if you're determined to be a farmer. And, I have said before, I absolutely loathe, hate the term hobby farm. You're either farming or you're not. If you're farming, then you're a farmer, you're growing something for human consumption or some kind of consumption, right? Even tobacco or whatever. It's a consumable. To me, a hobby farm means you have a bunch of land and you're out there with your lawnmower cutting the grass. You've got the land, but you're not doing anything with it except cutting the grass. I guess that's a hobby farm. But if you've got livestock or crops or whatever, and you're growing it for consumption, you're farming. That's agriculture. It's not a hobby farm. And so I just get really ticked off and insulted when people call it a hobby farm. So I've got the water up here. I gave him a little bit of food this morning, and unfortunately that pullet that I was talking to you about yesterday, I just knew from experience it wasn't gonna survive, and it didn't. And to be honest with you, 10% losses with chickens is, unfortunately, that's pretty common. Sometimes you get lucky and you don't lose any, and sometimes you get really unlucky and you lose a lot. And the days that you lose a lot makes you really second guess your farming abilities. But it's par for the course, unfortunately. If farming were easy, everybody would be doing it. It's almost chicken clean out time. I've got that deep litter base in there. That worked pretty well for the chickens. I did it with the sheep this year on kind of a trial, and I don't think I'm gonna do it with the sheep again because the sheep just pull all the hay in, and you have to pitchfork it out, and I don't see the advantage of it with the sheep. I only feed the chickens in the morning. I give them enough to last the day. I don't overfeed the chickens. Fat chickens don't lay eggs. Also, if all that grain sitting around invites rats. If I was going to be gone for a couple days, I'd load more in, but I put in just enough so they've got enough for the day, and then it's empty. It's empty by the next morning. I just don't believe in overfeeding your chickens, because like I said, it's a proven fact that fat chickens won't lay eggs. And you notice these cows, they have horns, and I forgot when I got them to have the dairy disbud them. So they got these little spike horns, and they'll have decent horns by September when they go. I don't like horns. It's not because they're mean with them, but cows love to scratch, and they especially love to have their forehead scratched or right between their ears. And you make a great scratching post for cows, because they obviously can't scratch their own ears. And if they got horns, well, it hurts. Same thing with sheep and goats. I always had them disbudded. Well, the katahdin sheep don't have horns anyway. If they do, they get little nubs that just fall off. But you can see they just don't have them. And I like the katahdin and dorper sheep too, because you don't have to shear them. There's no money in wool whatsoever, and it's a pain to shear them. Then you got all this wool you can't do anything with, and if anybody does buy the wool, it has to be clean, so you have to have them in a blanket for a while before you shear them, and then there's a way to shear them, and it has to be done. And to be honest with you, unless you're a professional shearer, having somebody drive out here and shear your sheep, and then the amount of money you get off the wool, is a deficit situation. But there are home spinners, and I've seen some of the wools, you know, at the ag shows, and they're beautiful fleeces, and it's just a whole trade. It's an art form, really. And I've done it before. You know, you card the wool and then you spin it into yarn. I've spun yarn in my life, and it's fun. You know, it's one of those things that in the wintertime you could sit in the living room with your spinning wheel and make yarn. It's you know, in the wintertime it's dark at 4:30. It's something to do besides be on the internet, playing Xbox or whatever. But you got to be somebody who crochets or knits or have a market for it, and to be honest with you, it's just not there. The next week or so I'll have to start riding the fences, getting those ready. I'll start here with my sacrifice field, because that's where they're going to be for at least another month. I don't want to put them out on the good fields yet. They'll destroy it. The hooves will just tread it right into the ground, and I've got a lot of money into my fields now, so I don't want them wrecked. But I got to get these fences in order, because they'll start testing them right off. And so we had these windstorms up here. I don't know if you watch Goldshaw Farm or not, but his whole hoop house got wrecked. And I did have one of those portable shelters. It survived for a while, and I had it anchored pretty good, but we had one windstorm one day and flipped it right upside down and wrecked it. But I can get plexiglass at the hardware store very cheaply, and I can cut it and do it myself. So I guess that's what I'll do. I do have some very old panes of glass for the old windows in the barn, and I've got them all wrapped in brown paper packages, tied up with strings. A few of my favorite things. And those I just save for the barn. You know, the front windows. Because once those are gone, they're gone. But I've got this window here. It got destroyed. So I'm going to go ahead and get this put back together, rebuild it. The other part is the part with the hinge on it. The bottom is actually the top, and the hinge is still attached to the window casing. So I got to take that out. I'm going to rebuild this window, get it all put back together, and that'll be in the next episode. Well, I do appreciate everybody who watches the channel. We're almost at 1,100 subscribers, which actually I'm very gracious for the amount of people who find me entertaining enough or smart enough or whatever to watch. And you know, it's kind of humbling. and there's a lot of stuff you guys can watch on different venues, and the fact that you're spending time watching me, I'm very grateful, and I appreciate it very much. I appreciate the feedback, and you're all great. So thank you for that, and I will talk to you next time. We'll be working on the windows. Thank you for watching.